So, because I am committed to honoring my life and all life and the particular purpose of my life within the larger whole, and being the co-pilot that I was designed to be, back to the prior analogy, because of that commitment, I know that the health of the body temple is functional to have a healthy body temple as it relates to all the other things that I'm going to do in terms of interacting with people on an everyday basis, whatever else that might be. So, in addition to me wanting to invite other people into health, greater health and so forth, I also want to maintain my own health. That's number one. One of the things that comes up with that is that I don't already have all of the resources that I would prefer to have as it relates to being healthy, and the other practices that would be appropriate for fulfilling my commitment to my own life's purpose, my commitment to my own life. So that's where the whole financial thing comes in as something that I expect that you will be as interested in as I have been, or similarly interested, if not quite as interested. That's fine. One of the first things that is clear is that there's a couple different categories of finances. There are the tangible things that we have, like food and health within our own physiological organism, and so on. There's our earnings, our income. There's also our savings or our assets. Could be investments or a vehicle that we own, a real estate interest, etc. Let's see. So one of the things that is kind of easy to forget but is quite important in the present day and age, as opposed to the things that I just listed, which have been important all along. In present context, we have these new things in the last, say, 90 years of individual accounts where I have a tracking number for me and for all of the business that I conduct, if I want to use that tracking number for that business. Just as I can put items in my own name, because they're one of the factors here might be that there might have been a lot of people named John Smith. How do we know which John Smith is the owner of the real estate at 1209 East 7th Street? Well, we could, there were photo IDs made, and there were also these tracking numbers or accounting numbers that were made. In the case of the Federal Reserve and its partner, the United States of America, this was the Social Security Administration and the Internal Revenue Service and their Social Security numbers or tax identification numbers for the living citizens' Social Security numbers. Since I don't know really how long, for most of my life, there's been credit records kept. And these are tracked, of course, by the name and the number, so to speak. And it's very important to a lot of people these days. They want to buy a house. Oh, look, I don't have $300,000, but I can borrow $280, and I've got this much, and I can borrow that much. How does those kind of borrowings come about? It's through these tracking systems, through these accounting systems. There's a set of reports or records that actually track all these different items. Like you have an account with a credit card, an account with a car, auto, an account with another home, Maybe it's an old account, but the credit reports, as time goes on, it's quite likely that they'll contain quite a bit of data as far as funds coming in as well as funds going out. It's kind of a natural progression. Might be somewhat shocking to people, but no more shocking really than the rest of it. So with these accounts, a lot of people find them extremely important. They're very concerned about maintaining a good credit report. If one has a poor credit report, improving that, having a better score. Obviously, a great way to do that is by earning more money. However, there are other ways. So I don't know that I'm really going to say a lot about that, just to point out that one of the big assets that people overlook as an asset is their credit score and the tracking number or the accounting number that they are offered for their use. There are clearly things that a lot of people think are quite favorable as far as getting Social Security benefits and so on. There are also some things that might not be deemed so favorable. However, for most people, they see the Social Security number, for instance, as a asset, and they are right in their own finances. It's a tremendous asset. Now you even have employers running credit reports before hiring employees, tenants applying for a rental, not just people looking to buy a home on borrowed money, which of course is overwhelmingly the norm, that people borrow money to purchase real estate, cars, and borrowing is extremely common. So those accounts are really important to a lot of people, and it's not difficult, generally speaking, to improve the credit score. And there are a number of ways to do it. One of the most direct ways just being to ask. And I'm not going to get into the detail of that, just to point out, yes, this is an important asset to people. That account is important to people. And the thing that I want to note, especially as it relates to people who are very concerned about the Federal Reserve System and the global banking program and so forth. These accounts are liability accounts primarily. They're quite useful for accessing credit. In other words, getting, borrowing funds to purchase a home, borrowing funds to purchase a car, to purchase a computer, whatever it may be. Purchase food, purchase gasoline. What do you value? You want to pay your electrical bill with credit? It can be done. If you don't know how, I can help you with that. However, the flip side of that is that, generally speaking, people put all their assets under those same accounts, those same accounting tracking numbers, as well as their own name. This results in a pretty favorable situation for tax collectors. If you're thinking you might want to support the tax collection programs a little bit less, and all the things that those programs subsidize, and perhaps you want to contribute more to other things, as you might find that more fitting with your own life purpose and your own sense of integrity and commitment. That can be done. Listing assets in your own name and in association with that Social Security number is entirely optional. When I say entirely optional, it really does vary, but for a lot of people, they don't recognize that there's any flexibility or any alternative, and there is. From sheltered ownership of bank accounts and brokerage accounts to autos and real estate. Also there's kind of related to that is sheltering of communications and sheltering as far as privacy in regard to one's location. So we can maintain use of the Social Security number for as it relates to debt and accessing credit, borrowing, as if we see fit, as long as the credit system as it is continues, which is not guaranteed by any means. It's a trend. The trend has been lowering of interest rates in the United States for the last 25 years or so, since around 1980. And the lowering of interest rates tends to draw people into borrowing more. That trend will end, and then there will be less access to credit. The banks will be less willing to extend credit. They will withdraw credit lines. The same kind of thing that happened in Japan in the 90s and in other places and times, though in much smaller ways. The Social Security numbering and accounting system is so widespread that this credit contraction is going to be enormously significant in terms of the overall effect on humanity, human civilization, not just the United States or Japan or even not just industrialized modern countries that have a lot of advanced technology and advanced banking systems. So it's really easy to improve the credit score. It's really easy to hold assets of various sorts in ways that do not leave them subject to controversy with regard to tax collection, with regard to all sorts of courts, all sorts of debt collectors. One of the most obvious things is that in the event of someone's death, probate courts will distribute the assets. In order to avoid the expense and delay of that, one can shelter all of their, or either all of their finances and assets or some of their finances and assets, so that those things will be available for their families or other loved ones in the event of some kind of emergency, whether it's a death or a illness or whatever it may be. Very, very simple. This is self-evident. If you leave it exposed to litigation and probate courts and tax collectors, in some cases that will have the consequences of delays and sharing, so to speak, of those assets with those other strangers and so forth. By setting up in advance precisely the arrangement that you'd like to have come about in the event of some kind of foreseeable but surprise event, such as an illness or a death. How many people are expecting that they will outlive all of the rest of humanity and all their loved ones? Well, no, not me. We can anticipate that by making arrangements ahead of time, we can avoid a lot of issues with lawyers, and it's really so simple to do. Does not need to be expensive. Does not need to take a lot of time. I skipped something with regard to the credit, or the credit report as an asset, the Social Security number and so forth as an asset. In addition to it being very easy to improve the credit score, it's also very easy to settle a lot of these unsecured debts at greatly discounted rates. Again, don't really wish to get into detail about that, just want to make the note. It's often extremely easy to do. Today, I talked to a student loan. It wasn't actually the lender. It's this happened to be a I guess, the collection firm for a student loan. And the student who has graduated and so forth, that person was paying $253 a month, and the lady that I talked to suggested to me that they would be willing to take less than $18 a month. $18 being the amount of interest. So if he paid less than $18 a month, he would never pay off the loan, but that would be his payment, just $18, and this is like a $18,000 debt. So it's nice to know that in the event of us wanting to shift our commitment and say, hey, you know what, I've been in the driver's seat, in the pilot seat, and I want to go over to the co-pilot seat and let God be the pilot here. I want to shift over and consider my purpose really solidly, and I do. As I want to do that, you may have a similar experience. As I want to do that, as I commit to doing that, then it changes how I want to spend money, even things that I previously borrowed for. If I can make a few phone calls and arrange to have an extra $200 and some a month, or in the case of a lot of people, they're putting out a lot of money per month in debt servicing or slow repayment of debts. If they could drop that to $18 from $253, for instance, then that might be extremely favorable for them and allow them to explore other investments of money. Maybe they'll work less, maybe because they won't need as much money. Maybe they'll work better and put their time into something that that will allow them to have a cushion, and they will be a little bit more comfortable to risk something really lucrative. Maybe they'll put more funds into health practices that really work, that they already know about but had been only pursuing on a limited basis because of a sense of limited funds. You want to afford more. Well, how about you, at the same time as you improve your credit score and access more available credit, pay less back, and then as it relates to investments, if one has that degree of excess, make much more money on investments. So I know this is a bit long, but I do wish to talk very briefly about investments. There's really not a whole lot that I want to say about investments in a context like this. As I said, with sheltered brokerage accounts, you can have the assets held outside of your name, outside of your Social Security number, or you can have it associated with your name. You can even have it associated with your Social Security number. That's really not the issue as far as what I'm about to say, but because investments are they're reliable investment strategies that make much more than 10 or 25% a year. It also is relevant to consider the use of one's available credit to pursue programs like this. If one has a fair amount of available credit, in addition to using available credit, because of the settlement, not only the repayment miracles that happen all the time, but because of the settlement miracles that happen all the time, it may be very attractive for someone to move some funds from a credit card into a sheltered bank account, and they don't have to then be. I would not, as I might do this, I would not then wonder, well, in an emergency, is that credit going to be withdrawn? If there's a banking emergency, if there's an economic emergency, not just a personal emergency, but a large-scale economic emergency, those credit lines will be withdrawn. They're not guaranteed. So if I liquidate them and move them into a sheltered bank account, then that's much safer. Now, I might also then invest some of those funds in a sheltered brokerage account through the means that would reliably get much more than 10, 25, 35, whatever percent that the credit card companies would be charging. Because I can get way better investment results than that, that's attractive. And because of being able to settle unsecured debt at extremely discounted rates, the whole thing gets really interesting as it relates to investing. Now, I'm going to actually break and pause and start the investing as a separate segment.